Good evening, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV, late night edition. Unless you're on the opposite side of the world, then good morning. And in this episode, we're going to learn about the rise of a giant mind, unleashing your inner power. And what was the rest of that, Nick? Because it's huge.
Conquering, yeah,
Conquering.
conquering life's
That's the word I was looking
challenges.
for. Conquering life's challenge. So sit back, relax, and we're going to wake up the inner giant. Oh, good evening, Giants. Welcome to Wake Up with Giants TV. I'm Ryan Morris, and I have not drank enough water today, so that's why I can't remember what the heck I'm talking about. So I apologize for that. But tonight we have an amazing opportunity to sit back and listen to an amazing expert of panels. But before we do that, remember to go to giantsandsmalls.com, subscribe to our newsletter. You can see when we go live on something like this every single dang time. You can look at the calendar, and it's miniature, but behind Nick is the tortoise's hair. We're in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign, a little over 60% funded on that, so we can bring this amazing book to the world. Last time we did a Kickstarter campaign, it was really, really clunky and really, really slow, but it's led to all of this that we're doing now with the Giants and the Smalls. So hopefully and expectedly, great things with the tortoise's hair. I'm so excited because Nicholas T. Smith has written that book along with the Giants and the Smalls, and he is going to introduce our panel and probably share anything else that I'm missing because
No, this is great. Yeah, we've got a great episode today. So we are on the theme of empowerment, and the way we use that in the 12 journeys from the Giants and the Smalls is tools and resources to help you regain your power when your mind gets hijacked. And so tonight we've got a great panel. We're going to talk about tools and resources that you can lean on in those times when it gets really difficult. We're going to go around the room real quick, and in a minute or less, tell us who you are, where you are in the world, and what you're up to. Holly, we'll start with you.
Hello, everybody. I am Holly May, and I have a platform on Instagram and YouTube for Reset Your Life, simple practices to incorporate into your day to bring calmness, stillness, and rejuvenate the mind-body system. So I'm super grateful to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm in Utah. Sorry.
Yeah, Utah, you got it. And we finally got some warm weather.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Billy?
Hey, what's up, everyone? My name's Bill Schiffenhauer, retired Olympian, Olympic silver medalist with Team USA in bobsled. And I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah as well. And what do I do? Are we talking about that? What do I do?
Yeah. If you'd like to, yeah.
I didn't get the list out, but
what doesn't he do?
Yeah. So I'm a managing partner in 2 global technology companies and a partner in 2 higher level corporate retreat executive training companies, as well as my own motivational speaking and consulting company.
Awesome. It's good to have you here. Ryan Morris.
I'm Ryan Morris from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I agree that Billy is a stud, and I love that guy too. I'm part of the Giants and have built the Tribe of Giants, Wake Up with Giants TV, and a bunch of other great things with Nick Smith. So that's me in a nutshell.
It's good to have you here, man. Jimbo.
Thanks, buddy.
Hi, everybody. Jimbo Taylor. I am also here in Utah, North Salt Lake City. I am good friends with both Ryan and Nick. I am a tobacconist at Beehive Cigars in lovely downtown Salt Lake. And yeah, I'm always happy to collaborate with both of these guys and everyone else involved.
Good to have you here, Debbie Sluice.
Hi, so I think I'm the only Canadian on the panel. I'm from Southern Ontario, Canada, and I'm the CEO and founder of Dare to Declare. And I'm obsessed with vision boards. So it's like what I live and breathe all day, every day. Wake up, go to sleep thinking about vision boards. And the way that we do them is very intentional. And because of that, they work. So that's a
beautiful. Yeah, good to have you here again. Peter?
Hi, yes, Peter Sage here in the beautiful Canary Islands off the west coast of Africa. And I own and run a business that predominantly specializes in holding up a mirror to remind people of their own greatness, because that can get a little foggy here and there. Essentially, background as an entrepreneur, been unemployable for the last 33 years, and really studying human behavior as a human behavior expert.
This will be excellent. So
I need to be unemployable for 33 years or whatever.
Right.
That would be great.
I wish somebody would have told me that. It would have saved me a lot of heartache. Trying to get a job for years.
We're all coming to the Canary Islands. Here we come.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in with the idea of empowerment. What does empowerment mean to you? So, and we have our context with the giants and the smalls, but anybody want to tackle that? And I'll watch for hands. If you want to raise your hand, that would be the easiest way for me to see you. But what is empowerment when you hear that word? Yeah, Holly.
Being resilient and having power and authority over myself and not being thrown off kilter by life and the happenings that take place within it.
Yeah. So being able to stay in your power, not be knocked off kilter.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Any other takes on that, Jimbo?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what Holly was saying. I think it's taking your own journey and making it your own, not having that outside influence kind of like try to pull and kind of drag you toward it. It's your own power. It's your own journey, and no one can take that from you.
Yeah. Okay. So it's coming from you. It's not being taken from you. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
If that makes sense. Awesome. Deb?
I think of it like a candle. Like as you're speaking, that's what came to mind is that I feel empowered when I can empower others. And so when I'm that candle and then I light someone else's wick or have it burn brighter, I feel empowered.
Yeah, cool. Now I have a question around this. Do you guys always feel empowered? Are you always on your A game? Do you ever have low energy, or is that a thing of the past? Peter, I see your face there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a misnomer around what being empowered means a lot in personal growth, which means you always have to be, on, and that leads to a lot of inauthenticity. For me, being empowered is essentially being the star of your own movie rather than being an unpaid film extra in somebody else's. And that doesn't mean to say that you've always got to be on your game. It means being authentic. And I love what our previous speakers have said. For me, it's not about not falling off the horse. It is about not falling off the horse as often, not hitting the ground as hard, and shortening the time between that and getting back on the horse to carry on being the star of your movie.
I love that. Yeah. Any other takes on that? I think that's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah. I mean, I personally would just love to echo everything everyone's saying, right? If we step back into like the athlete mindset, being, an Olympian and competing at the highest level, and same thing, right? Having 5 companies at the highest level, you would love to be empowered to be on point all the time, but that's just not a reality, right? It's how can you get in your car and drive 1,000 miles per hour down the highway without something happening at some point in time where you just have to take a break, sit back, reset, refocus, get back on the horse like you're talking about and go at it. I get a lot of people ask me the same thing. How do you do so much stuff? And a lot of times they're like, you don't have time. How do you have the time? It says, well, I'm very strategic with what I do. So, I mean, I actually have a lot more time, free time to do stuff with family, friends. And I know when to empower myself at the level I need to be, but then there's also times where we may not be on our A game. So you're still empowered. Doesn't mean you're not empowered, but you're just down at a different level and you still kind of work through to do what you got to do to get what you need to get done that day or with the group you're with and so on and so on. So.
Yeah. Perfect. Jimbo.
Yeah. I want to bounce off what he was saying. I like that too, but can also you can empower others around you. You can empower yourself. You can motivate and put that empowerment in your colleagues, your peers, your family, whatever it may be. And that's not to say you always have to be 100% just on top of your game. You're 100%, 110% even, I think that part of sharing that empowerment with everyone in your circle or outside your circle, whatever it may be, I think in return what that does is it helps empower us. You see what I mean? I'm sharing this with this person. In return, it's also helping me do the same thing because I've done something that I wanted to give that empowerment I had to someone else and to let them experience that. So in return, it's helped fill my cup that I filled their cup at the same time.
Yeah. So kind of like what you said, Debbie, right? A little bit around lighting your candle and then sharing that, but it never like diminishes. It never goes away. There's an unlimited amount of that. Is that accurate, or is there another thought you have along this, Debbie?
Oh, I was just going to say,
Yeah.
it's not necessarily about being high and low. In fact, I'm empowered when I'm self-aware.
Okay.
And often my self-awareness doesn't even come in the high moments. It's actually when I'm triggered, when I've discovered a paradigm and I'm like, oh crap, there it is again, right? It's like that lie keeps showing up. But because I notice it, I'm like, good for you. You just noticed that, right? And there it is again. And you get to acknowledge it and go, okay, well, I'm going to keep working it. So I think the more I become self-aware and I'm on this journey of personal development, I'm then feeling empowered because I feel like I'm not running. I'm not being run by the inner child or the demons, or like, it's like I've taken back the power because I've become self-aware.
Because you're aware, right? That there is a lot of power in that. We talk about the journey of non-consciousness where you don't even know what's going on. You have all this stuff playing out and you're not even aware of it. But the moment you become aware, what I see people do is they're really hard on themselves in that awareness. And so how do you recognize when you're aware, and how do you recognize your non-consciousness pretending to be aware? Does that make sense? Peter, did that give you some thoughts there?
Yes, and again, I think what I call most people are sleeping awake.
Okay.
Yeah, they're running off that autopilot, and I think again excuse me, another misnomer about the whole personal growth is that we have to be sort of perfect, and then as we forget we're creatures of habit, we don't realize it's where do you live versus where do you visit. You know, you live in the gym, you can visit McDonald's here and there, it's not going to do a lot. You know, you live in McDonald's, you can visit the gym once in a while, it's not going to do a lot. So where is my direction of travel? Because if you're trying to get every answer right and you're benchmarking yourself by always being on point, you're in the wrong class. You know, you don't get better at tennis by playing people you can beat. So it's allowing the space to mess up, but knowing you're on that journey, that being aware of the fact that I'm not here to get every answer right. I'm here to try to do the best I can from an authentic place. And in that journey, I'm constantly evolving. So as we say, if you screw up, it's okay. If you notice that, if you're making excuses for yourself because you're trying to cover up low standards, that's a different conversation.
Right.
But having that level of continuous improvement from a place of not beating yourself up if you screw up is empowerment, as you say, as long as you're aware.
I just saw, like, as Peter was talking, I saw, like, in my head, it's those adults that are playing against little kids and they're playing basketball. They like stuff them and they're like, what? That's kind of what came up for me in my mind. I also know that, like, from like an awareness, I don't feel like I became aware until I was like in my 30s, my late 30s, like started to become aware of my inner child, like the abandonment issues, the things that I had playing, and the like I had this I don't know, like just this. I mean, the inner child, I guess, is what it really was. This operating system of all of these protections and all of these thoughts and all of these things that then they were like beer goggles almost, right, of how I saw the world. And then I like wake up to something different, and there's almost this level of like shit. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like crap. It's the red pill, blue pill moments, and then going back into the work and finding those points of okay, where was this? Why was I seeing the world this way, and how do I see it a different way now? Because what was working before isn't working anymore for me. And then there's this period of like, okay, the empowerment for me is finding tools, healing, releasing, forgiving, and going through those steps. And then when stuff comes up, it's like Billy, it's like doing reps. It's practicing and practicing, practicing. I mean, the first time Billy hit the bobsled, he wasn't a bobsledder. He didn't start out as a bobsledder. He was an athlete. He was a baseball player. He was this. He's everything other than that. And the first few times, it was probably pretty clanky. I think of Cool Runnings where they first try to get in, and it's like all over the place. I don't know if it was that bad, but it was probably a little bit difficult. And then you start doing the reps, and you feel more empowered because you know what to do when stuff comes up. At least that's kind of how I see empowerment. We lost audio.
I see
Hey,
there I am. Rep McDonald's, right? Those are the reps that we need to work on.
Yes.
No, there's this awakening that happens. So when you wake up to things, so maybe you've gone unconscious, and for some people, the non-conscious part of it, or the overwhelm of the emotions, say, they have these thoughts and emotions, and they overtake them, and it puts them into a space that they're not able to function in their lives properly, and they really struggle with that, and they call it a mental illness. And so what are some of the misconceptions that we have when it comes to things like this, mental illness versus a struggle, and how can we shift that? Yeah, let's go Holly, and then we'll go Jimbo, if that works.
I think the awareness piece is the biggest key, and being aware of how you're feeling and acknowledging I might be feeling bad or depressed, or I might have rage, whatever it is that you're experiencing, and then deciding to make new choices. It comes down to deciding, okay, I have free will. I can choose a different way. I don't have to keep repeating these cycles, and choosing to engage in different activities or start new practices that help to balance out mind chatter or minimize it, help to balance the mind-body system so that we can begin to feel differently through these new choices that we are making.
Yeah, so the brain is plastic, right? Not made of plastic, but it's plastic in the sense that we can constantly create new patterns, new behaviors. And so the idea that you just presented is that when we get into that space, we have the ability to engage in a new way. And then as we practice that, we get better and better at it. It becomes automated, becomes habituated.
Exactly. I mean, I think Peter was talking about habits. And if you're constantly doing the same habits, you're going to constantly excuse me, I am losing my words. You're going to keep getting what you're getting. That concept of you keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting what you're getting. And if you start changing your habits into more healthy, balanced habits that are engaging your brain differently, engaging your body differently, you're going to start feeling different. Yeah. And so changing those habits with that awareness.
I like that. Jimbo, do you remember your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty much going to say a lot of the same things. I think the biggest thing is obviously like just be mindful and be aware of whatever it is you're feeling. And there's kind of the stigma with mental health, and I'm such a huge advocate for it because it's something that I struggle with, and I have for a very long time. So awareness is the number one priority. If you're whatever emotions or feelings you're having, always just be aware, but also give yourself a break. Like, it's okay to have those feelings. It's okay to have those emotions. It's okay not to be 100% at your best mental capacity, which goes along with everything that we've been talking about so far. So you just kind of have to give yourself some credit that it's okay, and just keep awareness and just be mindful, whatever it is that you're going through, I guess.
Jimbo had some stuff going on the other day, and he messaged Nick and I. We're his buddies. We hang out outside of this. We'll hang out and just talk, and we'll go get cigars. And I was grateful that Jimbo was aware of his emotions and the things that were going on. He just reached out and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm feeling." And it was a chance for Nick and I to be there and to be supportive and, to shoot some love towards Jimbo, And so if you're feeling that way, if you feel like you're disempowered or you're going through these heavy emotions and this judgments and all these things, reach out, find one of us, get with people. It's actually very empowering to ask for help, which is kind of feels like the opposite, like you're letting go of power. No, it's actually the opposite. If you can do that.
Yeah. How does that tie into community? How important is community when it comes to navigating a loss of power or being hijacked?
I'll jump in on that if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
You both know the mental health struggles I've been through. I'm pretty open about it, with the depression after retiring from the Olympics, the suicide attempt, the addiction, alcoholism, and it's hard. And when I first decided to come out about it, it was a massive hurdle for me. I mean, I was just like, there's no way I'm going to come out and talk about this because, I'm supposed to be the Olympian. I'm supposed to be the champion. I'm supposed to be the business guy that everybody knows that's successful. But I didn't have any other options. Like my next option was not good. And I was like, I either got to open up and talk about it or something's not going to go very well. And so when I finally did, I was blown away at the response I had from people all around me, that I was vulnerable enough to talk about this, and the amount of good it did for me, not only myself, but it also, funny enough, empowered other people. I mean, I talked about this my very first time at a private event at Dave's house in Holiday. And, we're talking about some of the most influential people here in Utah, and I'm spilling out my guts about my depression, suicide, and addictions. And I literally thought I'd ruined my career. But one person after another came up to me and just said, "Hey, I'm so glad that you were vulnerable enough to tell your story about what you went through, because I have a story like yours. And I never thought it was okay to talk about it, but you're the Olympian. And if it's okay for you to talk about it, I feel like I have permission to talk about my story." Right. And I'm crying like these people are telling me this, because like what I expected to happen was completely opposite. Right. So that community that I put trust in, then also put trust in me to overcome some of that stuff.
I like that. Yeah, I want to throw this up on the board here. Let me know if you guys can read that. We'd love some thoughts on that.
That's pretty powerful. I think that's really powerful. It's and I think that kind of goes with. I'm sorry. Obviously, if I may, didn't mean to just jump in.
Nope, you're good. Yeah, go.
No, I think that's absolutely beautiful, because I think it kind of correlates to the importance of having the community, as you were saying, Nick. I think that it's and that's one thing that I can definitely appreciate. I feel like these days, particularly, everyone's going through something, and I love that you can take two like-minded people and you both learn that you're struggling with the same thing, whether it be addiction, mental health, anything to that nature. It's nice to be able to find that level of compassion from someone who's going through the same thing that you're going through, and you never knew it. That's what's so amazing. You have two of the same people, and they come together with compassion. And that is exactly what that community is. And that's exactly how important it is also to have that community. So those words right there are very appreciative to me, and they definitely resonate very strongly.
Yeah, thank you, Jimbo. Peter, did you have a comment? I saw your hand go up there just briefly.
Yeah, I think one thing that we tend to forget is that we're all made of the same stuff. I know how you feel when you feel upset, because I know how I feel when I feel upset. I know how you feel when you feel joy, because I know how I feel when I feel joy. And as human beings, we tend to all suffer from the same primary fear, which is the fear that we're not enough. Yeah, not good enough, not smart enough, good looking enough, tall enough, short enough, fill in the blank. And through that avoidance of that fear, we tend to put on these personas of, I'll either, if you don't like me this way, I'll be that way. Or if I try to fit somebody else, my perception of somebody else's approval strategy so you don't reject me. There's a huge amount of that going on. And back to your point, Nick, on, the plasticity of the brain. We don't get to choose whether or not we are programmed. Yeah, as human beings, we're programmed by design. Programmable. What we do get to choose is how we want to be programmed. And if we're trying to isolate ourselves to come out of the gate as a perfect example so people won't reject us, we're playing a fool's game. And you become who you hang with. You hang around with 20 people that normalize victim because it prevents them from, or gives them the excuse rather to not embrace courage. You're going to adapt to that. But I think one of the greatest days in a human being's life on their journey of emotional maturity, so we don't get to vote whether we mature physically. That's part of the rule set. But emotional maturity is a choice.
Yeah.
And when it comes to emotional maturity, one of the greatest days is the day you wake up to realize that life is a growth-centric experience, not a comfort-centric experience. And again, we learn a lot more through getting the wrong answers in class than the right answers. And it's okay because say everybody else is doing the same. Oh my God, if I give the wrong answer, what will they think? Or if I admit to screwing up, what will they think? Or we're all doing the same thing. Yeah, we're all trying to make the best of what we can in our own journey. And when you understand that, compassion starts to realize we are equals. You may have a different script in your movie, but we're all trying to do the best we can, putting one foot in front of the other in a way that hopefully doesn't violate somebody else. And if it does, then we're going to learn from it.
Yeah, I could see that where people will find others who will agree with them, right? So if I have a justification and a story and a reason for everything that I do, and I find others that will support me in that story or justification, then I don't grow because I'm justified. And what we could do as a possibility is find people who challenge our stories, that tell us maybe that's not as accurate as you think. Maybe there's more to look at there. Maybe there's something else we could do with this. Right.
Yeah. Holding up a mirror for possibility. If you do it in the wrong way, people will push back because all they're hearing is you're not good enough because, and then we go into defensive mode.
Right.
So being able to inspire by being the example and the invitation, but also letting go with what they do with that invitation, because that's their movie, not yours.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Any other thoughts on that? It's their movie, not yours. Ryan, can't hear you.
I saw Holly's hand go up a little while back.
Yeah.
I was just going to touch on the compassion piece as seeing it as unity. When I can have compassion for myself, then I can also extend compassion to those around me. And the mirror concept, we're all responding through life through our fears until we've healed them, or our wounds until we've healed them. And so when we have the vulnerability to acknowledge that things need to change, when we have compassion for ourselves and not judgment, then we can work with unity within ourselves to build ourselves up instead of criticizing ourselves or judging ourselves or pushing ourselves down. And so I really see compassion as oneness among all of us.
Yeah, I think of Lisa Feldman Barrett's work. She talks about depression being the idea that we're not measuring up to our own ideals, and anxiety is when we think we're not measuring up to the ideals we think others have for us. And compassion is, something that we can easily do for others, but there's an element of self-compassion. I think it's in the work of Richard Schwartz. He talks about compassion isn't something you develop. It's innate. It's in every one of us. And it gets buried and hidden behind these masks or personas or parts that keep us playing small. And so if we can release those stories, justifications, parts, then we can really release our inner giant, so to speak. We can release that inner compassion that's already in there. Does that bring up anything for anybody? Yeah, Debbie?
Makes me think of there was an interview with Brené Brown and Oprah, and Brené Brown asked the audience if people who here are caregivers and care for other people, and almost everybody was like, yeah. So I mean, heart-centered people. And she said, do you struggle? You know, if somebody gives you something, do you struggle to receive it? Right? And everybody's like, yeah, right. And she's like, I know, we almost do that as bragging rights. It's like we're like, oh no, I'm the giver, I'm not the receiver. But she said, when you judge yourself for receiving, for taking something that someone's offering, you actually never give without judgment. That really hit home for me to think, wow, so it begins with me, like you're talking about, that self-love, that I learn to receive and not judge myself for that act. Because without having that self-love for myself, that compassion for myself, I can't actually give it in its purest form.
Yeah, we had somebody on the show the other day, and she talked about the word deep depressed, right? The word depressed, she said it in a way like this: deep rest, which shifted the whole energy of the word. It's this word that gets us to pull back energy, and some people get stuck in this cycle of deep restedness, right? Or depression. And we measure ourselves against that. And like you said, Holly, we don't re-engage with something new. We stay stuck in a cycle. And that's where it gets really challenging. So people lean on addictions or numb out or try not to feel, through whatever form they do that, and they get stuck there. And so how would you share with somebody? I don't even know if it's advising them, but what would you say to somebody if they were stuck in that cycle of depression or anxiety where they're really having a hard time coming out of it? How could you, or what would you inspire in them, maybe from your own story, that would help them break free from that? Yeah, Jimbo. And then Holly, I see your.
Yeah, I'll go after you.
Yep.
I think the biggest thing, and this is something that I haven't learned, is you have to crush. Going back to kind of what I was saying before, you have to learn to not let that stigma get the best of you. Okay, you have to beat any stigma that comes attached to anxiety or depression in that sense. So it's the biggest thing that I something that I've kind of gone over with some peers that are dealing with some of the same issues. Excuse me, dealing with some of the same issues that I've dealt with is just you can't force yourself upon anyone. That's I think that's number one. You just have to, you have to find out what to just extend a helping hand out, however that may be. Uh, you can offer up support. Hey, I'm here. You know, you're not the only one going through this. There's me and several others that have been through a lot of the same that you've been through. While I cannot, I can't force you as a human being to share what you're going through, but I'm always here to extend, a listening ear and, any words of advice that I may have that I can pass on to you. And from there, you just remind them any way you can, however that may be. If there's an act that you can do, an act of kindness that you can do for them, or maybe it's doing something that's helping them out. Maybe they need help with their family. Maybe it's a small task they need help with that they haven't been able to complete. Just any act of kindness that you can give, I think goes a long way.
Beautiful. Thank you, Holly.
I think in speaking to someone who has, anxiety or depression, whether it's chronic or acute, first to say it's okay what you're feeling, and it's okay to fully experience those emotions and feelings. Let them pass through you. Don't hold on to them. Don't keep them stagnant in your body. Release them. And ways of doing that would be start being mindful about everything that you are absorbing, the media and music content that you allow yourself to listen to or read, the food that you're consuming, the thoughts that you lean into. Not all thoughts are facts. Some of them we don't need to even allow ourselves to get caught down that rabbit hole. We can recognize.
So not everything on TikTok was accurate. Then, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So you can take just, and sit with somebody and really help them to feel let them feel what they're experiencing, and then say, okay, here are some ways that you can just start to make some little shifts, and you'll begin to feel a difference. And that forward momentum is contagious. And then you can just continue to build on it.
Yeah.
If there's somebody that does that, it's Holly. Like, she'll hold right here. She'll hear you, feel you. Oh, it feels so good to be in like her presence.
Aww,
it's amazing.
Thank you.
That element of compassion. There was the experiment, the rat park experiment, that comes to mind for me, where they hooked rats on heroin and they isolated them, and many of them would consume the heroin to their death and detriment. But they did this study where they took these rats and they put them into a park where there were other rats and toys and all this stuff, and they had the heroin there. But because of the community, not one of them went to the heroin. There was no need for it to feel, well, we don't know what the rats are thinking, but I'll assume to feel good about their lives and that they're measuring up, right? But there's something about community and isolation. If we're in isolation, it can be very damaging. Being accepted and acknowledged, that compassion that you guys are talking about is that kindness of community. It's that element of acceptance and acknowledgement. To me, the word acceptance doesn't mean you love it. It doesn't mean it's ideal. It just means you're acknowledging this is where we are and this is what's going on, right? It's a radical honesty. Any thoughts around that?
I think what you're touching on is what I call conscious non-resistance.
Okay.
And I love, again, what Holly was saying. It's like there's a difference between identifying with the feelings and realizing you're not your feelings. As soon as you say I am, anything that comes after that is going to determine your sense of self, your identity, and therefore lead to unconscious behavior.
Yeah.
So if I say, oh, I'm angry, no, you're not. You're suffering from or experiencing the feeling of and the emotion of anger.
Yeah.
It's not who you are. Yeah. I'm depressed. No, you're not. You're experiencing feelings that are causing you to have a model of the world that means your outer world doesn't fit the pictures of what you want it to look like according to your inner world. And you're calling that feeling depression. Okay? But it's like someone says, oh, I have cancer. I'm like, you don't. Your body has cancer. You don't have cancer. Right? And as soon as you have that level of separation, you create a space enough to be able to deal with it. Because if not, you're screwed. Yeah, I'm diabetic means I'm going to follow a certain protocol, which unfortunately isn't often that effective because you don't think there's an exit. So now you're just adapting to the condition. Yeah, I'm suffering from a condition that they call diabetes, creates a separation of identity and condition that then allows me to treat it from a different angle rather than drag it around like a ball and chain.
Yeah.
And so being able to have that level of context gives a bit of meaning.
Yeah. We get flooded with these comments. Sometimes they'll bury the whole screen. It's awesome.
Sorry about that.
But we didn't lose your message.
Speaking of, like, I don't know what's in the water over there, but like, it's what time again? What time was it in the morning?
3:38 in the morning.
Adrian's probably right there with you. I don't know what it is over there, but we got some wicked cool giants tuning in
South Africa. Yeah,
3-something a.m. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being on. That idea there of separating yourself from the emotions, separating yourself from the thoughts. Humans have about 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts a day. Which one of those is you? And all of those thoughts generate emotions. Those emotions come from the thoughts. And so which one of those emotions is you? It's really, like you're saying, Peter, it's getting beyond that and recognizing that those are experiences coming from this body that are happening here in this body, but they're not who you are as an identity. I think that's very powerful. So what other tools do you lean on when it gets really challenging? And maybe you don't have the challenges. Peter, you mentioned that sometimes you fall off the horse, but maybe you don't fall as hard. Maybe it's a little softer. Maybe you move back a little quicker onto the horse. But there are times where it takes over, I would imagine. And what do you lean on as far as your tools to move through that more quickly? What are some of your favorites?
sounds like something about vision and maybe helping it, like pull you through.
Yeah.
Who do we know that's an expert on vision? Oh, Debbie.
I can handle this one, I think. Going right with some tools. Yeah. So I worked in childcare for 30 plus years. And in the childcare world, we talk about self-regulation for children. And what we want them to do is be able to self-regulate so that they don't, it's like a thermostat, that they're not, sort of turtling and super cold, or that they're not having a meltdown tantrum up here, but that there's somewhere, that Goldilocks just right, that self-regulation. And that's what a vision board, when you have your visions, when you have your dreams, whether they're just simply written down, but again, of course, I'm a big proponent of having them in images. When you've got that visible as a tool, that when you're feeling, my life is crap, I don't know, I feel so discombobulated, I don't have clarity anymore, you go back to what you have set out intentionally, like this is my best life, this is where I'm headed, and to also be in that state of belief. And so I love the ideas of ask, believe, and receive, and having some of those kinds of phrases. And then that leads me into the affirmations as well. And I would say the power of auto suggestion, that if you're not feeling it, but that you can just even say it, you've got it written down. I'm so happy and grateful now that, and you're going to say it with conviction, and that just keep saying it until, again, it seeps in and you begin to feel what you're actually saying out loud. And so those would be some of my tools, would be the vision board and the affirmations.
I love that. Yeah, Holly?
Tools to help when you fall off the horse, as you were saying. Any type of practice that is helping you find comfort in discomfort. So like cold showers, ice baths, breathing practices like the Wim Hof method or expert box level breathing are really great ways of being in control of your body, but intentionally subjecting yourself to discomfort to build your resilience so that you come back to balance much quicker.
Yeah. So distress tools like dialectical behavioral therapy, some of these tools where the intensity is so much, you've got to soften those emotions. And then the vision. Let me ask you this, Deb. On vision, what if somebody's really struggling internally and their internal state is kind of messy and they're looking forward at the unknown and they're trying to create their vision, but they're coming at it from that? What would you share with them there?
Yeah, I was actually speaking with someone today, and they were a caregiver for most of their life as a child and then into their adult years. And she said, I really I feel like I lost my ability to have an imagination and to dream. And, so there may be some people, again, if you're feeling that just depressed and anxiety state, that you feel that way, you kind of lost your way. And that's where community comes in. And I think that to have someone else reflect with you what it is that, start with gratitude, start where you are. What have you already got? What is around you, like in terms of being thankful, being present, and getting intentional. And then an exercise I love to do is just to focus on a single word. So it may not even be an image. It may not be something that's really detailed, like this, elaborate 7-area life, but it might be a single word that gives you power. So my word is anticipation. So that when I do feel like I'm sinking below the line, that I can think to myself, okay, what would the woman who's in a state of anticipation, what would she do in this situation? How would she respond to this person, the situation? And that really, again, helps me stay focused.
Yeah, I like that. Any others? What other tools?
Alina, just real quick. And then Alina said, Ryan uses humor. Yeah, I'm the guy that's like joking at funerals and stuff like that because I'm uncomfortable and stuff like that. But humor is a good one. Laughing and it'll kind of release a whole bunch of awesome stuff.
For sure. Sorry. So we're going to go Peter, Jimbo, and then Bill, if that works.
Thank you. I think the one of the fastest ways to shift your state is gratitude. The challenge is most people, when they're upset, don't focus on what they're grateful for. They focus on what's missing. And gratitude is easy when you understand contrast frames. Yeah, when we realize there's always something to be grateful for, then we're just not looking at looking at it from the right side. 5 years ago, I was in a civil action with a multi-billion-dollar company, arguing over a years-old multi-million-dollar business deal, and they threw a contempt of court application I thought was a chess move. Didn't give it any credibility, sold it to the judge. I did 6 months in the most violent prison in the UK as a civil prisoner. Never been accused of a crime, never been found guilty, no criminal record. Lost everything. And I saw that as an amazing opportunity to go and add value and serve. I worked with Tony Robbins for 15 years. I saw a lot more crazies in Tony's seminars in prison. But when it comes to go in and add value, and I turn it into an amazing adventure. One of the points being here is that if you take Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, the classics, I would have copies of that sent in and give it to the most seriously depressed prisoners and challenge them to read that book and not cry with tears of gratitude that they were in somewhere like Pentonville instead of somewhere like Auschwitz. Everything's about what you want to contrast it to. And we often forget that, but gratitude is, you can't be grateful and depressed, stressed, or anxious in the same room. They don't live together.
I ask everybody real quick, if you can mute out when you're not chatting to cut the echo, if we could. That'd be perfect. So the idea of gratitude that you just hit on is powerful. Gratitude seems to be one of the most powerful tools. And then there are other tools that go along with that, but it's getting into that mindset. I love Viktor Frankl's work, Edith Eger's work on meaning and expression. Edith Eger talks about expression. So I love the idea of gratitude. Jimbo, we're going to come to you on your thoughts. Do you remember what they were on additional?
Yeah. Excuse me. I think the biggest tool, like for me personally, like it kind of connects to everything with what Peter was talking about, especially with gratitude. Going to what Ryan was saying, or when he commented about the controlled breathing. Obviously, the biggest thing that kind of helps kind of center that is music, and I think that's a very powerful moving art form, or probably the most powerful art form that we all have available at our fingertips. Um, it definitely resonates a lot of powerful emotions, and I think with that emotions obviously becomes like, again, Ryan was saying with the centered breathing, it's a matter of just having that kind of that inner peace and your self meditation, where it's just you're turning on whatever kind of music that hits home for you. I think that's a very powerful resource, a very powerful tool. It's definitely spoken a lot of words for me. I definitely think it's there when there are absolutely no words to be spoken. So I think that kind of circles around to, you have that self-awareness time, you have that self-meditation where, you just, if there's ever a moment where you feel just unsure, uncertain, it's, taking that 15, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever time you need to stick on your headphones and have that time to yourself where you can bring yourself back down to earth with the controlled breathing. And you start thinking about the things you do have, and you don't think about the things that you don't have, because when you think about the things, everything you do have, that's when you become, obviously you're still feeling the gratitude, you're being very humble, and you're just very proud of everything that you've been able to do as an individual, and you're very proud of everything that you've accomplished. So that's very important to me.
To me, yesterday it was Def Leppard, so it was perfect. Pour some sugar on me.
Nice.
Yeah, I love the music idea. The other thing it does too is it brings up the memories of the good times, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, Bill, did you have some thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, even with this panel and people are listening, there's 1,000,001 ways and practices and tools people could utilize to help get out of that space that they're in, right? One of the things I like to use, both for myself, individuals I work with, corporations I work with, is help them understand what is the architecture they built for themselves, whether that's their personal life, business, or relationships. What does that look like, right? Because what I found over the years, both in my own life and other clients, is that, you know, they've built this architecture in their life in a way by default, right? And then they've cluttered it all up with all sorts of chaos and stuff like that. So trying to help them understand what that architecture looks like and what's involved in that, and then start figuring out what do we need to declutter based off of the values that you hopefully set for yourself a long time ago. If they haven't done that, like, let's help them also figure that out too, right? So we can get them on the right path. Because, you know, how many of us, you know, have created a life by default where we're like, well, wait, this is not what I want to do. You see it all the time with people who go to school. I'm going to declare this as my major. And then 10 years down the road, they're doing something completely different, right? So just helping them understand, like, what is the architecture that they've built and be accountable for that architecture, and then start figuring out what are the things that within your architecture that are not serving you that we can start decluttering so we can go back and rebuild that architecture by design.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Like Peter, you said earlier about the design, your programming. You weren't able to choose your program that was given to you. Essentially, if I'm hearing you right, the architecture, like you're saying it, Bill. Am I hearing that right, Peter?
Yeah, I'm saying we don't get to choose whether or not we're programmable. We do get to choose how we're programmed. And one of the most powerful aspects of that is the environment. Yeah, environment beats will over time, every time. You know, if I moved to Utah for a couple of years and I came back to the UK, my friends would turn around and say, "Oh, you picked up an accent." Now, I didn't go to accent school when I got there. I didn't
terrible accents,
right?
Yeah,
or Australia or what have you. But my environment unconsciously impacted me to the point where it affected every word coming out of my mouth. I say to people, you know, what's your financial accent? Who are you hanging around with, and what are their limiting beliefs around money?
Yeah, wow.
What is your happiness accent? Who are you hanging around with? Again, if you're watching the media, I can predict that you ain't happy, right? Because the job of the media is to induce uncertainty, right? That's, you know, if you think the job of the media is to report the news, you're in Disneyland, right? So, you know, when it comes to taking charge of where you point your telescope, you know, that is a choice. And if you're not aware of that, there's a lot of people that'll kind of grab hold of that and point it in a direction that doesn't serve your needs.
Beautiful. Holly, I saw your hand go up, and then Bill.
Yeah, it makes me think about the importance of routine. You know, he's talking about the environment that we live in, and we get to create our home environment as we see fit. And that is the routines that we engage in on a daily basis, how we're preparing ourselves for the day, how we're de-stressing at the end of the day. That can have a huge impact on our mental, emotional, spiritual health. So
perfect. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, I actually wanted to comment. Somebody just posted a comment, said, if you grew up in chaos, you need chaos to function. And my personal response to that, I'm 100% disagree, because I grew up in about as bad chaos as you could get into. And if you take a look at my life now, zero chaos in my life, right? And I think part of that, you know, earlier we talked about what are the misguided thoughts when it comes to some of the stuff we're talking about, right? And some of those are exactly that, right? We may have attached ourselves to chaos and we think we can perform and function in a chaotic world, but the end game to that is never going to work out the way you want it to, right? And for me, one of the things I realized I had to step away from was living a chaotic life, because the results on everything I tried to do ended up in a chaotic mess. So again, my own personal belief is I just don't think that you, just because you lived in a world of chaos, or maybe you currently do, doesn't mean you need to have chaos to continue to function. Because for me, I've decluttered probably every bit of chaos out of my life I possibly could. And I leave, for the most part, a pretty simple life, but that also is what gives me the ability to be a partner in 5 global companies, right? Because I don't have chaos in my life anymore. So
you just gave a tool that I think is powerful that people sometimes miss: disagreement.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's okay. It's totally okay. I'm sure he probably has his thoughts and it's probably, there's a lot of credit to it and a lot of good stuff behind it. I just wanted to address it because I saw it pop up. So
it's all good. It's powerful to really just be with the idea that we're all going to have different views, but there are some common themes in what we're talking about here that we don't have to stay down.
Can I hurry and just and I like that too, Bill, because it's, you know, like you're like, if you want to talk about somebody who's getting some stuff done. Before we hopped on the show, I asked Billy what he was up to, and it was like boom, 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 boom. It's like a list of all these things, and it's amazing. But because he's intentional. But I also would say that he takes the chaos and he organizes it because there's unlimited possibilities in there, and then he can do what he says. He can take somebody and pull from the ether, you know, pull from out there and say, okay, well, what do you really want? And even tying into Deb's work is saying, okay, there's your vision. Okay, now how do we construct this bad boy to get your vision? And let's do this. Boom, boom, boom. You can take and organize from the chaos. You can teach somebody to do just that when it seems chaotic in their world and they don't know how to do it. Once you can start using chaos as a tool, oh, the world is just your oyster.
Channel your energy.
Exactly. Yep.
So Richard, wasn't it Richard Paul Evans said that, right? Chaos is the mind of creation. Yeah. And but you don't have to live in it. You don't have to be chaos.
Yes.
Right.
Unless you're the chaos coordinator, which is Curtis Marsh.
And we can agree or disagree too, right? Not all chaos is bad chaos, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I mean, to a degree, being a part of 5 global companies, it's a little chaotic, but it's all great chaos for me. You know, and there's nothing negative about it. So
it's beautiful. Let's go ahead and wrap up with some final thoughts. Anybody want to share some final thoughts as we finish up this episode? Biggest takeaways, insights maybe you thought you want to share that didn't come up that you still want to share?
Just in this moment with the last conversation, learning to live in the world but not of it, and not being caught up in all of the chaos that's taking place, and just acknowledging that it is happening, but that doesn't mean that I need to live in it, and channeling that energy. So it just feels very relevant to where we're at right now in the world.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Thank you, Holly.
Yeah, I would say it could feel like, you know, you could be sitting there at home, you know, and feeling the chaos and having all of these things come up and not knowing what to do. Well, hey, at least you're aware of it. That's the first step. And then go and get around like-minded people. Go find people that are doing the things that you want to do, that have the tools to help you channel the chaos and organize it, to build the architecture, to help you get your vision, to help you be a mirror and to see the best version of yourself, to be a giant. Those are those things that you can do at home. And it might seem like it's just way out there, but you're worth it. You're worthy. You matter, and you can do it. Just reach out. Find one of these people on these panels, because I guarantee they'd love to have a conversation with you. Find them on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, all the places. I don't know where you all are. Sometimes I'm on TikTok, I'll admit it, but you can find us and then watch these shows because they'll help you get to where you want to go.
Yeah, thank you, Jimbo, and then Deb. Oh, you're muted, bud. I'll get you there. Got you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. I think the biggest thing is obviously to kind of tie in with that too is self-care. Self-care. It's something we're all guilty of not doing, and it's something that goes so far to help all of us. It helps us. It helps our mind. It helps us be who we are. When your cup is full, then you can pour onto others. Okay? Like, just be aware. Just be mindful. That's the biggest 3 that of anything I've ever said as of tonight.
Yeah, thank you. Deb?
I just want to give a quote. This is a passage I've been studying in my mastermind every morning, and it's by James Allen. It's called, the piece is called Thought and Character. And there's just a piece in here. It says, man is made or unmade by himself. In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy, strength, and peace.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you. Bill.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we just mentioned, right, is getting yourself around like-minded people. We got to clarify what that means, though, right, too, for some people. But if you're having a hard time, I want to kind of echo, a lot of people will ask me, like, who do I surround myself with? Well, it doesn't always I don't always have the time to do that. So I follow Deb. I see her posts. And those are things, and I follow you guys. And like, I utilize the things that you're doing to help inspire me, even on days where I'm struggling. It is what it is. I struggle sometimes, and I'm okay with that, and I admit it. But I use my circle of influence, even though we're not directly connected and we don't all hang out together all the time. But I watch what you guys post, and people that are out there right now, you can do the same thing. I know Deb posts stuff all the time, like so. Yeah. But I also wanted to say that there's a couple of quotes that we use in one of our organizations by Gandhi that says, happiness is when what you think, say, and do are all in alignment. So what are you thinking, saying, and doing on a daily basis? And are those things healthy? And if they're not, let's figure out how to declutter them and create some more healthy thinking and saying and doing.
Yeah.
And then practice that too, right? Just like, you're talking about, I didn't go and do bobsled one day, right? I had to practice. And, I came up with a quote a while back that, practice makes perfect, but you don't need to be perfect to win. So.
I like that.
I do imagine, though, that you were a pretty damn good bobsledder right out of the gate.
Yeah. I didn't have many options left to make the Olympic team, so it didn't matter if it was bobsled or badminton. I was going to make it happen.
It was going to get a medal no matter, right? Yeah.
Last thoughts from me, and I've got a lot to share on Sunday, so I won't. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah.
We're together for the episode then. But really just building on what everybody said here. I mean, one of the things that Einstein said is that the most powerful question you could ask or answer in your lifetime is whether you live in a friendly or a hostile universe. And the reality is you don't live in either. You live in a self-reflective universe, which is what he was alluding to. And if you stand in front of the mirror loves you. But its job is to reflect. You want to stand in front in your victim clothes, it can only reflect back evidence of victim. The challenge is people need to realize they have an unlimited wardrobe. You want to stand in front with a cape, go to the cape. And that is going to be influenced by a lot of the factors we spoke about here. Go Captain America. And so, being able to know that you do have a choice. And we'll get into meaning a lot on Sunday because that's a huge backdrop to where people's direction heads. But it's been a privilege to be able to listen to the incredible people you put together. I'm really just blessed to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being up at 4 a.m.
Yeah, who knew? The Canary Islands. Like, how freaking rad is that? Love it.
I'm on a plane, man. I'm coming. I'm on a plane.
I asked myself a question. If we're lucky enough to be living in a time in human history where we can choose where we want to live, where would it be? Questions are the steering wheel of the mind. Questions direct focus. And my parents never got to ask that question at my age. And I've been very blessed. I've lived all over the world. And it's a choice. And it was, I can't do this because. Well, no, you're not doing that because you have a because.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And there's the end of our show right there. That's that's the beginning of Peter's show on Sunday. Right? So we'll use that as a segue in. I want to thank each of you for your insights, your wisdom, your life experiences that you guys have been through. Because you've all been through a lot. And that's where this wisdom and philosophy comes from, is everything you've gone through. You wouldn't be who you are today without it. And I'm grateful you went through it. And I'm sad that you went through it at the same time, but it's powerful because you're able to share with others who might be going through that right now, tools that will help them navigate in maybe a more healthy way. And so for those that are watching, thank you for your comments. They make the show. We love reading them, seeing them. Thank you for sharing this with your loved ones, friends, family, associates. Keep doing that. If you haven't followed us on YouTube, come do that. Make it a giant evening. We'll see you in the next episode. Have a great night.
Too.
Bye.